if we give antioxidants, the blood tends to remain in homeostasis, right? However, you can see the effects in the intestine, and I think that's very much in line with what Ursini was saying before, essentially that antioxidants can act at the skin and intestine level, but the action that they have on our body is primarily gene activation. Well, I agree with Ursini on that very point, that the antioxidant protection derived from plants primarily occurs in the gastrointestinal tract, and that's where the oxidation battle occurs, and that's where you generate lipoproteins that are already oxidated, etc., that go into the circulation and cause oxidated LDLs. So on that we agree entirely, for sure. Would you like to answer too, Ursini? Perhaps I could add a comment here. Well, thank you to the other speaker, because the work on postprandial oxidative stress is something that I looked into, and I presented that information, and so I'd like to answer that question. I think that there are many things to comment on, but there are a couple that I would like to discuss. To talk about these things, you need chemical rigor, if you will. And there are just a couple of things that I would contrast. Peroxides in plasma, which, unless measured in photocounting with a very refined technology, these will doubtless be wrong. And we're talking about plasma peroxide levels that are about 2 orders of magnitude higher than those measured carefully in xenophotocounting. So science says that the plasma peroxide levels are wrong. And secondly, I'm a friend of that colleague from Tennessee. Isoprostanes are great markers for what you've eaten, and indirectly for postprandial oxidative stress. So to argue that changing peroxides and changing isoperoxides in plasma is wrong for analytical reasons. And thirdly, measuring plasma means going to a steady state situation between the 4 quenches that are urine, albumin, vitamin E, and ascorbic acid. These are figures that we've all measured, we've all tried every which way. In 2010, talking about the antioxidant capacity of plasma is essentially deceiving for an audience that might believe it, because they're not insiders. Any other questions? Well, would you like to add anything? No. I can't add anything, because I think we would have to hold a whole conference on these subjects. I don't think it's worth debating them here. I'm sorry, but Dr. Ursini is not speaking into a microphone. I'm sorry, we can't hear what he's saying. The discussion can't be followed by the interpreters because the microphones are not being used by both speakers. Okay, that's what you think? No. Yes, that's what you think, and that's your stance. This is not the time or the place. This is what you think, and if you look at the literature and what's been published, well, I've published my data too, and so have I. Okay, well, let's agree to disagree. Thank you very much for that very lively debate. Are there any other questions? Yes, just one thing. Professor Cornelli, could fiber be regarded as a direct antioxidant? Because if it reduces the absorption of LDL, it will reduce the oxidative power of the fats and therefore reduce oxidation. Is that right? Yes, it depends on the kind of fiber, because fibers are not all the same. So we chose this one, polyglucosamine. The fibers tend to tangle themselves up, and obviously it goes hand in hand with vitamin C. So when it's linear, then ascorbic acid is detached and the free charges remain. But it has to have an affinity with the oxidated lipids, and that is what matters. And not all fiber is selective in that respect. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, let me know if there's not enough time. But I wanted to ask a question to Professor Cornelli. In that experiment that you showed us, there is a comparison between colon cancer patients and matched volunteers. Were the colon cancer very early? It was a very early stage. At that stage, oxidative stress is not yet very high because oxidative stress, as far as we know from the clinical standpoint, increases as the disease advances and is very high at the advanced stages of the disease. To look at the initial stages of the disease might generate incorrect data. They are not exactly matched volunteers, but they were patients with cancer, with polyps. So they're a few years off from cancer. I don't think you should call them matched volunteers. These are patients with polyposis, precancerous lesions. Yes, but we couldn't do anything else. That was all we could do. And as you will have seen, in fact, even in the so-called initial phases, there is oxidative stress. Okay, thank you. Thanks to all of you.